Yeah, so premise one, things can be and don't have to be, so that there must be a reason as to why they are. Also, I'm also going to, put in the premises in the side chat, so, we can track of them and we can see whether or not, like, to avoid confusion and stuff.
Yeah, I already have beef with the first premise, to be honest, but we can continue.
Okay, so you first want to talk about P1, or do you prefer me to give, like, the entire argument and then we'll go premise by premise?
Yeah, we can talk about premise one first. Uh,
Okay.
I, there's a couple of problems. How,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is PSR, right?
I mean, fundamentally, yeah.
Yeah. How are you justifying that?
Are you just agnostic on PSR, or do you, like, disagree with it?
Yeah, I disagree with PSR. I can give some reasons if you want.
Sure. Give me those reasons, and then I'll just prove P1. But I do want to hear
Yeah.
your reasons. So.
Well, the first problem just is that if we try to deductively, or not deductively, I mean inductively support this type of principle, um, we don't have a sample size relative to the whole to generalize from. That's
What do you mean?
the first Yeah, like when we I mean, because this type of principle, you're saying something robust. Like you're not saying something like it's just a pattern that we observe, right? You're saying like in all instances of space time, right? It says must, so that's talking about some necessity talk. But you're saying like in all instances of space time, if something could not exist or like it's possible for it not to exist, then it has an explanation. But like when you try to do an enumerative induction on that, it doesn't seem apparent to me that the inference would be inductively cogent, because we've only seen like 2 to 3% of the universe. I'm even more comfortable knocking that down to 1.5% or even going up to 6. That's fine, but that's just what cosmologists want to say. And then um, also, like if you believe that there are these like supernatural realms or entities like souls, spirits, whatever, then those other commitments are gonna like make it to where um, the scope is so broad that you can't really generalize from it. And then our physical processes are already extremely limited as it is. Um, I guess the biggest confusions of this type of principle is that it's a normative constraint, like it's rule based on our metaphysic. Um, so like you wouldn't be saying something about a trend of the world that we see around us. It's some metaphysic rule. Um, and rules like those are motivated based on like explanatory principles like scope or breadth or maybe things like if you want to think it's like more parsimonious or stuff, but or maybe like virtue of integration, which I think they're all poor. But the basic point is that you can't justify it based on the idea that uh, we've observed everything that has an explanation, because I wouldn't even accept that. But I don't want to ramble.
No, it's okay, but then I don't understand. Okay, so I mean, I can give you the deductive case for the PSR. I can show to you how it deductively must be true, right? However, I also can go in the inductive way. Like I can also say, like inductively, we observe most things have reasons or causes behind their existence, and so on and so forth. So I do want to understand why can't I make an observation of everything that I'm aware of, right? Anything that could go. It could be people, objects, trees, whatever, quantum mechanics, particles, or like the entire solar system or whatever. Why can I not take all of them and then see? Okay, I make an observation that all of these things have. Not only they obey to the laws and the principles of causality, but they also begin to exist, and they did not begin to exist on their own, like just like that randomly. They were caused into existence by other things. There's like a reason, some kind of like reason that has to be rational, and it has to be intelligible, some kind of intelligible reasons that gave being, that proposes existence to all of these elements, to all of these entities. I'm not understanding why is it wrong for me to make such observation and then induce, okay, therefore most likely PSR is true, and the idea of contradicting it is basically the same as contradicting everything that we know of reality, including our own experience of it. Why can't I go with that step? Because remember, I
I
do
guess
have the
I
deductive
mean a
case.
couple
I can
of
make the
I have
deductive
a
case, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I mean I have a couple of problems. I mean the sample size issue, I think relative to the probability talk, that's going to be a big problem. Uh,
What do you mean?
we can just take like let's imagine for example I had like a big ass pile of jelly beans, right? or like a big ass pot of jelly beans, and I can't see the inside of it, and then I pull out one that's red, you wouldn't be you wouldn't be warranted in saying that all of the other ones are red, right? But you're doing that on a much larger scale, right? Like the scale, the um, you're generalizing from a much smaller sample size relative to the whole, right?
Well,
three
but my
percent of
point
the
would be to
universe is
say
extremely large.
yes, but okay, but my point would be to say that nothing in the universe, like, hold on. So basically, everything that you have in the universe, let's start in this way. Everything that you have in the universe, although are distinct between each other, all of these elements within the universe, although they are distinct, some of them may be more similar, some of them may be more different, and so on and so forth. And there are so many things that we don't know in the universe. However, regardless of our knowledge lacking in all of these aspects, we do know, however, for a fact and with certainty, and this is not even inductive, that anything within the universe has to obey the laws of space and time. It has to obey spatio-temporal laws, with no exception.
What
So it
laws
wouldn't
are you
even be
referring
inductive.
to? I don't accept that there are such
The laws
laws.
of physics, the nomological laws.
Yeah, I don't accept that kind of talk about the universe obeying those laws. I'm a human about the
So for
laws.
example,
I think the
no, look,
laws of
I'm only
physics.
referring to, hold on, Cap. I'm only referring, for example, to the fact that you cannot go faster than the speed of light, right? So it
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't think
matter.
that's going to be the type of thing that is something that is like some rule based constraint. I think that's just relative to what we've observed, and I think mathematics is also going to be something that's descriptive. It has like conceptual use. I don't think that the laws of math are going to be
So
things
you
that
believe that
exist.
possibly something in the universe can go faster than the speed of light?
That's trivially true, logically speaking. You
Yeah,
also don't believe in this
that's
uniformity of laws either, because you believe in things like miracles or maybe violations of the nomological laws in your view. So I don't see why you wouldn't think
okay.
that we're on
There's a
equal footing here.
okay. I got you. No, there's a mistake in what you said. You said logically, but I didn't ask you logically. I agree with you. It's logically possible to go faster than the speed of light, but that's not my question. My question is it possible to go faster than the speed of light in our universe with this space-time fabric? Is it possible for you to go faster than the speed of light? I want you to answer this.
Relative to what modality?
Yeah, we're talking about it's physical, nomological.
Yeah, physically it's
There's no look.
impossible,
There's no
but look,
okay. Look,
I don't
there's no
think
other
that that
modality
warrants.
besides. There's no other modality besides the physical or the nomological one when we're talking about this universe, because the nomological laws or the modality of physical possibilities is not defined in terms of possible worlds. That makes no sense. It is rather defined in accordance or in consistency with what is permitted by a specific structure. In this case, this structure that we're living in, which is the space-time fabric. So under
Yeah,
within
I would
this
just
space-time
reject that.
fabric,
Like, look, let me just make
so
something clear.
so
I okay, you're gonna get your answer. Look, I would just reject that those type of things uh, do not exist in reality. I would reject that. Um, I would reject some dogmastic stance on something traveling faster than light, for example. I would reject all of that. Actually, you we're on equal footing, right? If you believe that the universe obeys these laws, then in your view, how do miracles occur? How do things like the violation of the nomological laws by Jesus occur, right? Obviously, those things are the kinds of things that will violate these laws. So I don't understand why you think the universe obeys by these laws. I would just reject that kind of phrasing. I think the laws talk about what should happen given what we observe, and not what will happen. I don't think most physicists would even agree that the laws talk about what would happen or what will happen in the future. Because then
okay,
we can just get into the whole talk about like uniformitarianism or Hume's problem of induction. I think those are also huge issues for this type of stance.
okay. Look, if you're not going to be able to provide an exception to the rule, so like if you're not going to be able to show that there can be some kind of element that can go faster than the speed of light or whatever, then all of
No,
this does not even
I'm
matter.
saying I don't I'm saying I don't accept that the universe abides by those laws. I'm saying I'm
Uh,
open to exceptions. That's the point. So when you say something like the universe obeys the laws of causality and all that talk, right? I'm saying I would just reject that the universe obeys those laws. I would provide an exception, right? I would just say something like that. I would say, well, why can't
okay,
there be something like a
cap
brew
for you,
contingency?
cap for you to make the claim that it's not necessarily true that it has to obey to such laws is for you to
That's
make the
trivially
claim
true.
that there is a con. sorry, it's for you to make the same claim. It's the same as saying that there is a counterexample that you can provide. That's what you're saying. Even if it's indirectly and you're not explicitly saying it with your mouth, that is the entailment. That you should be able to provide some kind of counterexample which is within the universe and yet does not obey to these laws of the universe. Now, I'm not going to give any kind of explanation on the miracle part of your speech because I believe that that you do not understand correctly my vision on miracles and how can they occur. But I'll put that aside and tell you directly that you shouldn't focus on me. That would be the fallacy of tu quoque. Even if you want to say, for argument's sake, suppose for argument's sake, that I have the same problem, it doesn't matter. We're not discussing me right now. We're discussing this view that you have, and I was asking you a question so that I can understand better what your worldview is, so we can have like a starting point. I
Yeah,
can
I mean,
have a
I
starting
gave you
point
my
from which.
view.
Okay, so that would be too quoque. It doesn't matter. Focus on your view. In your
Yeah,
view,
I gave
you
you my
should be
view.
able to provide. Yeah, I know. In your view, however, you should be able to provide some kind of counterexample, something that, for example, can exist and possess mass, and yet at
No,
the same
I don't
time
have
can go
to.
fashion at a speed of. Oh, then that means you cannot justify your position. So then I can
No,
just
that's
apply
not
Eachen's
true.
razor on
The
you.
point the point just says is that I'm not obligated to give you an example because we're talking about the possibility space, right? If you hold to PSR, it's not going to be even possible that there are these kinds of things. I'm saying I would reject that. I would accept the idea that these things are possible or that they could be out there in the universe. That's all I'm
No,
saying.
no, because if I ask you how do you know that they're possible, you're making a positive claim right now that they are possible, and that is a
Well,
claim you
that's
need to prove.
trivially true. Do you want to see a truth table?
Well, no, you gotta show it. Hold on. So truth table is now going to show physical possibility. By the way,
No, I'm just saying I'm talking about logical
like what?
possibility.
Okay, that's I told you it's irrelevant because we're talking about physical possibilities, not logical.
I would agree that it's physically impossible, but I would just reject
Okay,
that the physical modality governs all of reality. No physicist would say that.
I mean, all of the. I don't when you say reality, right? I take for example that there are other realities besides this universe, and I take that
I'm
reality
just
can also
talking
be
about the set of all
non-physical.
things that exist. That's all I'm talking
Okay,
about.
well, I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about this current universe, the space-time fabric.
Yeah,
Do you
space
believe
time. That's
within?
fine.
Do you believe within this space-time fabric you can have any object that has mass and can go yet at the same time fashion at the speed of light?
Hmm.
Okay, prove it. Because
That
that's a
I
claim.
can.
Prove it. That you
Do you want to see a
can
truth
have an
table?
object. Oh my goodness, the truth table is not going to make your case because the truth table has to do with logical possibilities, not with nomological
If you're
ones.
asking me if it's physically possible, no. But I don't accept that physical possibility talks about the set of all things that exist or even space time as a whole. I think it
We're
talks
not
about
talking about
patterns.
the set. Oh, look, you're not tracking. We're not talking about the set of everything that exists. We're talking about this
Okay, we can just say
specific
space time.
universe. Yeah, okay, but you do realize you can have distinct space-time construct that work in a different way. I'm not referring to
Okay,
space-time as
this
a whole. I'm
universe.
referring
That's
to
fine.
this specific space-time fabric. So
Hmm.
according to the space-time fabric itself. So don't go look into other space-time fabrics or don't look go look at other logical possibilities
I
within
don't
this
think you're
space-time
understanding the
fabric.
objection that I'm giving.
No, Cap, you're the one not understanding because you're trying to use different modalities and like committing a category error within this particular instance of the universe, within this particular space-time fabric or configuration. Can you provide a single example of something that possesses mass and yet at the same time is able to go fashion at the speed of light?
Well, I'm not
Yes or
required
no?
to give you an example on that. No, I
Well, no,
can't.
you do, because if you
Look,
cannot do that, then you're not justifying your view. If you're not, then I can apply Hitchens razor and then I would win the
I'm
point.
just talking about
So you
what could
kind of need to.
happen.
Oh my god. Okay, you
I
just did
think
not. I
relative
think we
look,
conclude on this point.
relative to the laws of physics, something cannot go faster than the speed of light, right?
Right.
That's true. But I don't
Mm.
accept that the laws of physics are going to be the kinds of things that govern our universe. Right? Like for example, imagine if I said
You mean physical universe?
yeah, like for example, imagine if I said relative to the rules of chess, you can't take a chess piece and slide it all the way across the board, right? That doesn't mean that it can't physically happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all, it only cannot happen relative to the rules of chess. And I'm saying relative to the laws of physics, it can't happen. But that doesn't mean that it can't obtain in our reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
We done? Okay, yeah, that does not make your case. It actually makes my case because if you agree that within the rules of chess you're not allowed to do something, wouldn't be possible for you to do something if you follow the rules. So whether or not external to the rules it's possible for you to do that to do an illegal move is irrelevant to the point.
But
Point
PSR
still stands.
quantifies over
Hold
the
on, chill.
universe
Hold on,
itself.
chill. Hold, yeah, exactly. So it quantifies over the physical possibilities. And this is also something I want to point out. I ask you exactly, are you when you said universe, do you mean the physical universe? Yes. You said yes. But the point is that
That's
I'm
fine.
talking about physical possibilities. And then you said that you don't believe that the physical universe is governed by the physical possibilities. How the heck is
Yeah,
it
I
not
don't.
governed under that scope of okay, that's a contradiction then. That's being up here.
What's the
Because
P
by
and not
definition,
P? What?
because yes, the PNLP is because by definition, the modality of physics applies to anything that is like physical. So you believe this universe to be physical.
False. I don't accept
False.
that either.
Okay, what do you define nomological modality to be then? Because you're
Well,
just gonna give an
nomological is laws of
idiosyncratic
nature,
view.
but the physical laws, right? I
Do
take
you
the
know what
Humean view.
nomological means? What do you think nomological stands for? What do you think
Laws.
nomological means?
Yeah, it's the laws of nature. We're talking about physical modality. There's a distinction.
What does
But
laws of
look,
nature mean?
I'm not here to get pedantic. I was trying to answer your question. Look, the point just is that when we have a law like a law of physics, I think that's just a pattern we observe, and then we say, well, if this pattern continues in the future, this is what should happen, right? That doesn't. I don't think the laws talk about
You
what
do
will happen.
you
No,
do
no
understand that
physicist would accept
nomological
that.
means physical?
That's fine.
Okay, so then you believe that physical things are not under the modality of physics. That's what you're telling me basically. That's just a contradiction.
Wait, did you understand anything I just said?
I did.
Can you still amend the view?
I'm saying what you're saying is it doesn't matter. Like even when you bring in physicists or cosmologists or whatever, that doesn't matter. Like at best that becomes an appeal to authority fallacy. I don't care discussing about that.
Well, it's not an appeal to authority fallacy if the
Okay, so then
individual
what is the
is.
relevance? What is the relevance of bringing them up? I don't care what they say. They could all
Yeah,
be
I
wrong
think
for
it's
all I
more
care.
probable. I think it's more probable that they're correct over me and you.
And why would they
Right?
be
Let's
more
not
correct?
let's not lie
How
to
do you?
ourselves. These people devote
Hold
their
on.
entire
How do you?
lives to this field,
Well, not really,
right?
because these topics are philosophical, not physical, right? So they're not. Sorry, not physical. I
But
meant
we're
to say
discussing
scientific.
something that is
So
physical
that doesn't matter
and
because
scientific. But
philosophy.
look,
No, it does. Hold on, Cap. Allow me to respond. It doesn't matter because philosophy comprises. It is also including the physical stuff. So I don't deny that scientists or whatever would have understanding of the physical stuff, but they don't have understanding of physical stuff from the philosophical perspective. That's the point. So they are an irrelevant authority. They are relevant if you're merely speaking about science and whatnot, but if you're speaking about science
well,
and
I'm
physical
talking
stuff
about what
in
the laws of
conjunction with
nature.
philosophy, okay, laws of
Look,
nature
I'm talking
means
about
a
what the
lot
laws
like
of physics are.
thermodynamics. Okay,
Yeah,
dude.
I'm talking about what
If
the laws of physics are. I don't think they're the kinds of things that tell us about what will happen.
look, what do you think
They talk
laws of
about what should
physics
happen.
mean?
Yeah, a law of physics is just some normative constraint where if we take some pattern of observation, we can look at what would happen if there was some future consistency
So you don't
or what
believe
should
that they
happen.
are. So you don't believe that they describe how the universe behaves?
They can describe how the universe behaves, but that's not
Okay,
the point.
so and so they describe how physical things behaves because you said the universe is physical.
Yeah, what we observe, yeah.
Okay, so if they describe how the universe works, then that means that they are the rule dictator of how the universe works.
That's actually
So that means that the
false
physical.
because do you
No, you
understand the
disagree with it.
difference between descriptive and prescriptive?
Yes, prescriptive says how it should behave. Descriptive would be to say how it behaves currently.
False. That
That's
was
not
horrible.
false. That's not false.
Prescriptive talks about what will happen. Descriptive talks
No,
about
you're
what
wrong
we
already.
observe and what should happen.
No, you're already wrong.
But look, that's fine. Look, the point just is
No,
that
wait, hold on.
I
No,
don't
no, no.
think the laws.
I'm not gonna let this slide. I'm gonna look at the definition of prescriptive.
Well, I don't think definitions can
Prescriptive.
be wrong. So
What? That's
I'm
not
using a
what.
stipulative definition.
Prescriptive.
But
Yes,
look,
it's idiosyncratic. Let me read it. Prescriptive, relating to the imposition or enforcement of a rule or method. That's the definition of prescriptive.
enforcement of a rule.
Yes, exactly. So it makes my case. I don't understand why you said it's false
What?
when that literally is within my point. I don't understand that.
I don't know what you're referring. Look, The point just is that I don't think the laws talk about what will happen. I think they talk about what should happen given what we observe. And I don't
So do
see
you
a reason
believe
as to
that?
why
So do
what
the
we
laws of
observe
look?
would
Do you said that the laws of physics describe, right?
they describe what we observe, and then
Yeah.
they say, look,
So
if
if
the
they
future
describe,
works,
okay, if they
look,
describe what we observe, can they possibly describe the contrary of what we have observed? No, right?
I'm unclear on what's even being asked there.
Did if we know the laws of physics, let's say for example, I don't know, thermodynamics or whatever, right? And we are just merely describing what we observe in the universe right going on, that means that that specific law, which is merely just a description, that description cannot be then contradictory and describe the opposite of what we have observed, right? Because the rule, the law is
Yeah,
exactly to describe what we have observed, so it
but that's
cannot be
exactly
contrary
why
to
we want to
itself.
say that the event will violate the law.
Okay, so that means that nomological modality dictates the behavior of physical stuff, because that
No,
means
what?
yes. Hold
That
on,
is a
chill.
horrible
You just
inference.
no. Look, you just agreed. It's literally substitutability. You're not. You're just not tracking on that. I'll explain even further. If we agree that you have the description of X, like you make observation of X, and then from the observation of X you have the description of X, that means that by looking at the description of X, you know how X is going to behave. So if you deny that, you're basically saying that the rule is fail. You're basically saying that the rule is failing at describing what X is. So you're
No,
basically
I'm
saying that the
saying,
laws of
look, the
physics
laws of
fail.
physics are patterns that we observe, but sometimes patterns deviate. Sometimes things don't always happen in accordance with the pattern.
Look, the patterns that you
What is
have,
there not to understand?
you can, no, you're not understanding, because I don't disagree with the fact that you can have multiple objects that would follow different patterns. And so you can say there's a pattern for this and another pattern for that. But the point is that all of those are going to be, at the end of the day, described universally. Which basically means, although those two things may have their own differences and they may behave differently, there is still something that both of them cannot do or that have to do by
I
virtue
don't
of what
think the
they
laws of
are, by
physics are
virtue of their
universal.
definition. Okay, so then that means you basically don't agree with the existence of the laws of physics, because that's what the laws of physics are. They are a
No.
description. Yes, they're a
No
description of
one
the behaviors.
no, you
So
think when
anything that is
physicists
physical and
have
has
some
behaviors would have a
law
description.
wait, do you think when physicists have some law like um let's say the law of I don't know, let's say Newton's laws, right? Do you think they're saying that this is some like metaphysical constraint? No, they don't think that, right? They're saying this is a pattern we observe. If it's consistent, this is what we would expect to happen. But sometimes things can happen outside of what we expect. And that's actually trivially true if we look at logical modality, right? Things can violate the laws of physics.
So you're confusing. You're basically confusing epistemic, like epistemology. We know, and and the reasons why you're applying to epistemology is because you're making an additional confusion, which is theories versus physical laws, right? So the physical laws are not theories; they're not scientific theories, which is what we expect, like the best explanation. That's just false. The laws of physics that we know today, those are not scientific theories. You would be right if you were to say, well, look, those are theories, so physicists or like cosmologists, they don't make the claim that that is definitive, or not. Like that would be true.
Actually,
Like if we're
most
talking about
physicists
some
don't think the
some
laws are definitive. Modality?
they would occur in other possible words if they're metaphysically possible, not
I'm
logically.
asking about logical modality.
Yeah, logical modality is not understood in terms of possible worlds. That's another mistake.
Yes, it is. There's
No, it is
logically
not. That's
possible world
metaphysics.
to
No,
say that
yeah,
something
that's no, that's a basic blunder that people make because they don't
that's not a
study. They
basic
think they.
blunder.
Yes, it is.
Logically possible worlds
The
just talk about
logical modality is
what
defined in
worlds.
terms of consistency with the laws of logic, not in
Mm-hmm.
logical possible worlds. It's not a thing. Possible world semantics only applies to
That actually is
metaphysics.
a
It
thing in
doesn't
possible
apply.
world semantics. But
My
regardless, look,
goodness.
we don't have to be that pedantic. Look, all I'm asking you is it logically possible for the laws of physics to be violated?
To be what?
To be violated.
What do you mean?
Like, is it logically possible for something to go faster than light
Okay, but
and
that
have
wouldn't be.
mass?
That's not this. Hold on, but that's not the same.
Binary. Is it logically possible? Yes or no?
But that's not the same as what you ask.
Binary.
Dude, I'll tell you again because you're not understanding. That's not what you have asked me. Asking me this, whether or not it's logically possible for
I'm
light,
asking this to
for
illustrate a
something to
point,
go
and
faster
you're
than the
not
speed of
answering.
light.
So look, is it logically
Because that's
possible?
not your
Yes or no?
question that you asked. Because that's not what the question that you asked. I'm not gonna answer.
So you're not going to answer the question. It's actually relevant to the
No.
substance of the dialectic.
I'm not saying it's completely relevant. I'm saying that's not what you asked me. So you cannot take my answer to this
Well, I'm
question
asking you a
as
new
an
question,
answer to the
bitch.
previous question. Okay, so you agree it's a new question?
Mm-hmm.
And you agree that the answer to the new question is not going to have applicability to the earlier question that you asked me? Like 10 seconds before
It's
asking
going to
this new
have
one?
applicability to the point that I'm bringing up. The
Okay, look.
objection that I've been
Okay,
raising
okay, then.
for the
Okay,
past
prove it's
like
gonna
10
have.
minutes.
Okay, then prove it's going to have applicability. Because I
We need
disagree
an
with that.
answer
Go ahead and
first.
prove that. No, because the answer presupposes that I agree that it's going to have the applicability. I'm saying I'm not going to respond because I disagree. I don't believe it's going to have applicability. You believe it does? Okay, then go ahead and prove it. If you prove it, then I will answer. Otherwise, I'm only going
Well,
to
if you don't
answer
want to answer, we can
if
go to
only if
closers.
you
That's fine.
concede. Only if you concede that it's not going to have applicability to the earlier question because you asked two different questions and the answer to the question that you asked right now is not going to be the same that I will give to the previous
Well,
question.
if you don't want to
That's
answer,
my
we can go
point.
to closers. That's fine.
Okay, look, I'll just say this and then we can close, okay? We can conclude on the point. So, if your second question is to be correctly interpreted according to the grammar, then a correct understanding of your question should be: is something going faster than the speed of light something that you know is consistent with the laws of logic? Then my answer will be yes. So there you go, your answer. However, does that relate or is that relevant at all to the previous question? No, it is not, because your previous question was: is it logically possible to violate the laws of physics? Well, but the whole point is to say that if it's logically possible for something to go faster than the speed of light, then you will be talking about another universe that has different laws of physics, such that the laws of physics themselves
In this
will allow
universe,
for something.
in
Hold
this
on, hold on, chill.
universe,
Hold on, chill. Such that the laws of physics themselves of that different universe will allow for the object, for the subject in question, to
I
have
just
mass
clarified the
and go faster than
question.
the speed of light. And
I just
however, that would
clarified.
be a violation of another universe, which is a different structure and is
Wait,
going to
stop.
have different, nomological laws.
You're not responding to the question I just raised. So I'm going to clarify the
I just,
question.
I
Is
just
it
did, by the way.
logically possible for something to go faster than the speed of light and
I
have
already
mass
did.
in this universe?
Wait. Okay, we can go to conclusions. I just answered.
You didn't answer that.
We can go to a conclusion. We can conclude. You're just
All right,
not
that's
tracking.
fine.
All right, are you guys both going to concluding now? Yeah.
On this point,
Yeah.
not the entire discussion, just on this point.
Okay, cool.
No, actually, I want to conclude on the discussion.
No,
We'll
because
conclude the whole
we're not even done.
Oh,
Like
oh.
we're talking
Okay,
about the
that's fine.
principle of sufficient reason. So, what are you
That's
doing?
fine. That's fine. That's fine. So, I mean, I guess another question I have is just like, uh, when we observe things, you want to say that we have justification for saying that they're caused, like everything that we observe, which I would actually say that's false.
Okay, can you show
Uh,
me something that we observe which has no cause?
no, I'm saying I don't think we have reason to think that everything we observe has a cause.
Is
That's
there
different
anything
from
that we have
saying,
observed? Is there, look, let me just ask you this. Is there
wait,
anything
just
that we
stop.
have
It's
ever
irrelevant to the point.
observed? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, look, all I'm saying is that when we observe something, I don't think we have reason to think that everything we observe has a cause, right? Because I'm not saying that it's not the case that everything has a cause, right? I'm not even saying something like that. I'm just saying that in order to have a justified view in which something's caused, we would need relata, the causal relation, and the mechanism that ties the two relata together, so we can say that they're causally closed or wedded. And we'd also need priors for that, right? Like, let's say there's some average person, right? Someone who doesn't know philosophy, which is the majority, I'd assume, who don't study like field of science or whatever, right? And they have no clue what causation is. And then someone says, "Oh, the guy," and then I walk up to them and they want to tell me, "Oh, the guy pulling the trigger caused the gunfire," right? And I ask, "What's the causal mechanism of that?" People aren't going to know what that means, right? Typically, the way we establish causal links between objects is with controlled
No,
experiments, and we don't put everything we see in some type of controlled experiment. Actually, we don't put almost anything we observe in these type of experiments.
that's
So actually, I
entirely
think
that's
there's an
entirely
open
irrelevant.
question.
How people see their perspective to
Stop.
me, that's
Stop.
entirely
Hold
irrelevant.
on. Calm down. Calm down. Actually, it is relevant because you want to say that everything we observe has some explanation. I'm saying I don't think we have reason to affirm that epistemically, right? So actually, I think there's an open question for almost everything I observe whether there's a cause there, right? It might be true that there's some like patterns or something like that, but that doesn't do anything to demarcate that between like correlation or even like extraordinary correlation where you're like you might say that it's a plausible intuition to say these things are caused, where extraordinary causation like would under mitigate that basically. So I don't think that that type of talk is even relevant. But also, I think most people have some concept of causality that wouldn't be the one you're talking about, right? Because if your whole model, um, obviously you want to hold to like atemporal causation or something like that, but if that's true, then like we wouldn't even be epistemically warranted in saying anything has a cause uh, under that account, because we don't have a single case to generalize from for there being this cause that's aspatial or atemporal, right?
That doesn't
Because we
follow.
have
That's
no
non sequitur.
examples. Hold on. We have no
That's non
examples.
sequitur, bro.
Literally zero. I didn't give it. I didn't say anything that's deductive, so I don't know why you're talking about non sequitur.
Non
Look,
sequitur.
we
Non
have no.
sequitur applies to. It doesn't only apply to the
Okay,
deductive
that's fine. Look,
arguments.
we have no examples of a causal relation that isn't in time. So when you say that there's a cause to the universe, that's also something that wouldn't be likely because we don't have a single case to generalize from. So
Get done.
I don't even know what kind of causation you're talking about.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'll
you can
just.
either respond. Look,
I'm
we have
just
two
going to
paths.
ask
You
you
can
this.
either respond to the objection about epistemic warrant and saying that things are caused, or you can respond to the model of causality talk. Pick your sauce. Go ahead.
Okay, so no, those issues are actually relevant. Like my view of causality is actually entirely relevant. I just want to get a straight yes or no from you on the question that I'm going to ask. Is there anything that we have ever observed which at the same time has no cause? I'll ask again. Have we ever witnessed something? Have we ever observed something in our physical experience, in all of this like thousands and thousands of years, like in all of it, in all our history, science, technology, whatever. Is there anything that we have ever observed? So we have observation, we have access to it. Is there anything of the sorta which has no cause? Is there
I've
anything of
already
the sorta? Yes or
explained
no?
I'm agnostic on whether or not we have, because there's an open
Okay,
question on
so
almost everything that we've observed, whether or not it has a cause.
got you. Oh, got you. So you're agnostic, right?
Yeah, I'm agnostic on whether or not there's anything that
Okay,
we've
if you're
observed that has no
okay, if
cause.
you're agnostic, so if you're agnostic, then you are dismantling the claim that you made earlier. The claim would be that there's no reason, to believe that all of these things have a cause, whatever. You just dismantled that. You just contradicted that.
What? That's
Because when
consistent
you
with being
say
agnostic.
no,
What the fuck are you
because
talking
when you
about?
say no, because when you say that there's no good reasons for X, you're saying all X. Oh, sorry, you're saying all reasons proposed for X are bad reasons, which is a claim.
That's just false. But look, even if that were true, right, you can still be
what's the
agnostic and affirm
debunk?
that.
No, you cannot, because agnosticism is for you to make no affirmation on a given subject. If you're making affirmation, that's not agnosticism.
You can
So
say
you would be
there's no
wrong.
good reason to say that something's true and still be agnostic to whether or not it's
No,
true.
no, you're not understanding. When you say that there are no good reasons for X, you're saying all reasons
Is that
proposed for
inconsistent?
X are bad. Oh my goodness, bro, you need to listen to what other people say. When you make the claim there are no good reasons for X, you're saying all reasons that have been proposed for X are bad. That's what you're saying, because you're saying that they're not good, and for something to be bad is for it not to be good. So you are
Yeah, but you
not
can still be
explicitly, but
agnostic on whether or
you're
not
saying that.
something's true.
You okay? When you're agnostic, it's not when you say, "Oh, there's no good reasons." That wouldn't be an agnostic. An agnostic will say he doesn't know whether or not there are good reasons. So no, it wouldn't
That's
be
just
consistent. It would
false.
be actually incompatible.
Agnosticism is just saying I don't know the truth value of a given proposition. Now you can say that
Exactly.
all
So
the
they don't
reasons.
know.
Wait, just stop talking. You can say that all the reasons for this proposition are bad, but I don't know the truth value of the proposition. That's perfectly consistent. I don't know why you're trying to press me on that point instead of responding to the two objections that I've levied. In which case, maybe you don't actually have an objection, or maybe you want to just yap about some
No,
bullshit
you're just confusing
epistemology.
the
But
subjects.
that's
You're not
fine.
talking because
So
no, because you're
so I'm gonna
confusing the
ask you
subject.
again. Pick your sauce. You can either respond to the point about um, there being an open-ended question on whether or not most things you observe are caused, or you can respond to the other critique I gave.
Okay, look, I'll tell you again. You're just confusing the subjects.
So which
Because
one
when
are
I
you gonna
say that,
respond to?
no, you need to stop, Cap. We're not gonna do this, right? I already said that yours is not the way you try to make it is
Which
not
one
going
are
to
you gonna
work
respond
because
to? I
already
gave you two
okay,
objections.
we're gonna have, yeah, so no, I'm gonna respond to what you said because I disagree with what you said, so I'm gonna attack it, and you're not gonna overtalk me, right? That's not gonna happen.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
Okay, so you're confusing subject, right? Because I don't disagree that you can say reason X, Y, and Z are bad in comparison to proposition to any random proposition, and so you're agnostic on the proposition. That would be a different subject. But within the same respect, the same subject, you cannot say that all of these reasons are bad and then you're agnostic because you're making the claim that those reasons are bad. So when you say that there are no good reasons to accept A, you're saying that all reasons given in favor of A are bad reasons. So although you may be agnostic, right, on A, you're not agnostic on the current arguments in favor of A because you're making an active claim that the current arguments being proposed are bad arguments or
But
not
you can
good
still be
reasons.
agnostic
That's
to
an
A.
active
So I don't know
claim.
what we're talking about.
That's not the point of this
You can
agreement.
still
That's why
be
I'm not saying you're not
agnostic to A.
tracking.
That's
That's not my
fine.
disagreement. That's not my objection. You're not tracking. And you just
You
confuse the
can still be
subject.
agnostic to A. But also, I didn't get a response to either one of the objections I raised. That's fine. We can go to closers if you want. That's fine.
Yeah, because you just did not attack anything.
Ironic because you didn't respond to
No, you
those
just
objections.
committed the
That's
fallacy of
fine.
argument by
But look,
repetition. Those objections don't even have existence. They're not even grounded in anything.
but yeah, look, we can give closers or we can just like wrap it up right now. I don't doesn't matter to me.
Uh, we're gonna give closure on this point and we'll proceed to the next point.
I'm talking about the whole debate.
Yeah, so no, because we didn't even get past premise one. What are you talking about?
I
See,
mean,
you guys don't know how
I
to
might
debate.
actually
You guys
force
don't know how to
close it.
debate.
Yeah, for
What?
the rec, I'm not debating anymore. We can go to closers.
So
That's fine.
you're going to disengage then?
Yeah.
All right, both interlocutors. Are you guys ready for closing?
Yep.
Yeah, you
Okay,
do realize
alright.
that if you disengage in this way, that means you lose.
That's.
All
I'm
right,
actually unsure on whether or not that's true, but
wait, I felt
That's
you
quite
wanna
literally because
hold
you
on.
said this is a formal like
Wait,
debate.
Axility,
That's
one
how it
second.
works in debates.
Wait,
So
one second. Yo,
yeah,
I felt. Are you
pathos.
gonna do an on stage verdict, or are you just gonna put
Yeah,
a?
yeah, I'll do a verdict. I'm gonna leave out the part about agnosticism out because I think that's quite trivial to the point.
By the
But
way, guys, hold on. Before that, I was recording the whole thing, and I have access to the recording. So if you guys need it for anything, just tell me, and I'll screen share it to you.